Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. You ready to explore some cool ideas with me today?
Always am.
All right, well, get this. We're going to be checking out this book called Pilot Your Life. It's by Pascal Saul Sobsob.
Interesting title.
Yeah, right? And you know what? It's not your typical self-help book. I mean, it uses all these metaphors about flying and stuff to break down life's challenges.
Oh, so it's like using aviation to teach us about life.
Exactly. And it helps you figure out how to, actually achieve your goals.
I'm intrigued.
So get this. The author, Pascal Saul Sobsob, he was on this super turbulent flight once, and the pilot was just totally calm and collected throughout the whole thing.
Wow. Must have been unnerving.
Yeah, but you know what? It completely changed his whole perspective.
Yeah.
He realized that we can all learn to handle the ups and downs of life just like that pilot, with
Yeah.
more skill and resilience and all that.
So that's the whole premise of the book.
Pretty much. It's like the core message, you
Yeah.
know? You're the pilot of your life, not your circumstances, not other people, just you.
I can see how that would be empowering.
Right. It's so easy to feel like we're just passengers sometimes, like we're being tossed around by things we can't control. But this book, it reminds us that we always have a choice.
A choice to grab the controls.
Exactly. We can steer our lives in the direction we want to go.
Makes sense. So how does the book actually help you do that?
Well, it talks about this idea of defining your point A and point B. Have you heard of that?
I'm not sure.
So point A is where you are now,
Right.
your challenges, your frustrations, and then point B, that's your destination, your dreams, your goals, the whole shebang.
I like that. It's like mapping out your route.
Right. And it helps you stay focused even when things get rough. The book has all these cool examples from famous people like Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah. I can see how that fits.
Mandela's point B was a unified South Africa free from apartheid.
Powerful example.
Right. And then there's Elon Musk. His point B is all about making humanity interplanetary with SpaceX.
So it's about having a clear vision of where you want to end up.
Exactly. It's like having a flight plan for your life. Imagine trying to fly a plane without one. You'd just be lost, right?
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Same with life. Without a clear destination, it's easy to get sidetracked or lose motivation and all that.
Okay, so we need a flight plan. But what else?
Well, the book also talks about assembling your crew. Basically, it means surrounding yourself with the right people.
Ah, so the people who are going to support you on your journey.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
ones who, support your dreams, challenge you to grow, share your values, that kind of thing.
That makes sense. You don't want negative people holding you back.
Right. It's like on a flight, you wouldn't want to be surrounded by passengers who are constantly complaining or trying to grab the controls.
Definitely not.
So in life, we need to choose our passenger carefully. The people who are going to make the journey enjoyable and help us reach our destination.
So who are the right passengers then?
Well, the book talks about people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates.
Oh, interesting. I know they're good friends.
Yeah, and their friendship is built on shared values and a desire to make a difference. They inspire each other to be better, which is exactly the kind of positive influence we need in our lives, right?
Makes you think about who you have in your own life.
I know, right? And it's not just about who we surround ourselves with. It's also about knowing how to deal with the people who might be bringing us down.
Oh, like the toxic passengers.
Yeah, the book actually calls them that. And it gives advice on how to deal with them, like setting boundaries and things.
Because sometimes you can't just avoid those people altogether, right?
Exactly, especially
Sure.
if they're family or colleagues or whatever. But the book says it's about managing those relationships in a way that protects your own well-being and helps you stay focused on your goals.
I see. So it's about being mindful of the energy you allow into your life.
Right? And making choices that support you on your journey.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So we got our flight plan and our crew. What's next?
Well, next we need to learn how to master the controls.
So this is where the actual piloting comes in.
Exactly. It's about learning and developing new skills. Just like a pilot, they're constantly training and practicing.
It's about always growing and improving.
Right. And it's not just about technical skills either. It's also about developing emotional intelligence resilience, the ability to adapt to change, all that good stuff.
Because life is full of unexpected turns.
Totally. And we need to be able to adjust our course when things don't go according to plan. The book uses Elon Musk as an example.
Oh, yeah, he's known for being adaptable.
So after those early SpaceX launches failed, he didn't give up. He learned from his mistakes, and he kept going. And now look at SpaceX. They're at the forefront of space exploration.
That's a great example of how important it is to keep learning and growing.
Right. And it's also about being willing to try new things and step outside of your comfort zone sometimes.
So it's about being both skilled and adaptable.
Exactly. You need both to be a successful pilot in life.
Makes sense. So we've got our flight plan, our crew, and now we're mastering the controls. Anything else?
Well, the book also talks about the importance of having a plan for when things go wrong, like a contingency plan.
Oh, so like a backup plan in case of emergency.
Exactly. It's like having those emergency procedures ready to go just in case something unexpected happens.
That's smart. Because you never know what life is going to throw at you.
Right. And sometimes things don't go according to plan. So it's good to be prepared. The book talks about Aliko Dangote, a Nigerian businessman who anticipated potential economic downturns by diversifying his business interests.
So he was prepared for the worst case scenario.
Exactly. And it allowed him to weather the storms and keep growing his business.
I see. So it's about thinking ahead and being proactive.
Right. And it's not about being pessimistic or anything. It's just about being realistic and having a plan B just in case.
Okay, so we got a plan B. What about regularly checking in on our progress?
Oh, yeah, that's important too. The book calls it reviewing and updating your flight plan.
Because things change and we need to adapt.
Exactly. Life is constantly evolving, and so are our goals and strategies.
It's like checking your instruments and making sure you're still on course.
That's right. And the book gives the example of Strive Masioa, a Zimbabwean entrepreneur.
I'm not familiar with his work.
So he started out in one industry, but then he realized it was getting too crowded, so he shifted his focus to telecommunications.
And that worked out for him.
Big time. His company Econet became super successful, and it all started because he was willing to adapt and change direction.
That's inspiring. It shows that sometimes those unexpected detours can lead to amazing things.
Absolutely. So it's important to be open to change and to be willing to adjust your flight plan when necessary.
So we're constantly reassessing and adapting.
Exactly. It's all part of being a good pilot.
This is all making me think about the different forces that can impact our journey.
Oh, yeah, like the things that can propel us forward or hold us back.
Exactly. The book actually breaks them down into 4 categories.
Oh, really? I'm curious now.
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, first, there's gravity.
Gravity.
Yep. Think of it like the things that weigh us down and make it harder to achieve our goals.
Yeah. I can see that. Like those bad habits we all have.
Exactly. Procrastination, self-doubt, negative thinking, you name it. It's like extra baggage on a plane. The more we carry, the harder it is to take off.
So true. I feel like I'm carrying around a lot of baggage sometimes.
Well, the good news is that we can learn to let go of that baggage.
Wow.
The book talks about developing positive habits, like setting clear goals, breaking down big tasks into smaller steps, and surrounding ourselves with supportive people.
Okay, so that's how we deal with gravity. What about the other forces?
Well, next up is lift.
Lift, like the opposite of gravity.
Exactly. These are the things that uplift and inspire us, the things that help us soar to greater heights.
I like that. So what kind of things are we talking about here?
Things like positive relationships, opportunities for growth experiences that bring us joy. It's like the wind beneath our wings, you know?
I love that analogy.
It's about recognizing and cultivating the things that give us energy and make us feel alive.
So it's about surrounding ourselves with positivity
Yeah,
and seeking out experiences that help us grow.
exactly. And the book gives examples of people like Elon Musk and Mo Ibrahim who have done just that.
Makes you wonder what sources of lift we have in our own lives, doesn't it?
Definitely. We all need a little lift every now and then.
Okay, so we've got gravity and lift. What's next?
Well, then there's drag.
Drag.
Yep, this one's a bit less fun. It's the force that resists our forward motion.
Oh, so like the things that slow us down and make it harder to reach our goals?
Exactly. Think of it like friction or resistance. It's the stuff that makes us feel stuck or like we're constantly fighting an uphill battle.
So what are some examples of drag in real life?
Well, it could be anything, really. Negative people, toxic relationships, limiting beliefs, even just our own fear and self-doubt. It's all drag.
So it's about recognizing those sources of drag and finding ways to minimize them.
Right. The book talks about setting boundaries, letting go of toxic relationships, and challenging our own negative thoughts.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but it's worth it. Because when we reduce the drag in our lives, we can move forward with more ease and momentum.
So we're reducing gravity and drag and increasing lift. What about the last force?
Yes, the final force, thrust.
Thrust, like a rocket taking off.
Exactly. This is the force that propels us forward. It's our own effort, our drive, our determination.
I see. So it's the internal force that pushes us toward our goals.
Exactly. And it's essential for success. We can have all the right conditions in place, but without thrust, we're not going anywhere.
So how do we cultivate thrust?
It takes consistent effort, discipline, and a strong belief in ourselves.
So it's about staying motivated and focused even when things get tough.
Right. And the book gives examples of people like Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, and Tony Alumlu who have achieved incredible things through their own sheer determination and willpower.
Wow, that's inspiring. It shows that we all have the potential to create our own thrust and achieve amazing things.
Exactly. And remember, these four forces are always at play in our lives.
So it's about understanding how they work and using them to our advantage.
Exactly. We can't always control the external forces, but we can learn to manage them effectively.
So we're minimizing gravity and drag, maximizing lift and thrust. It's like a balancing act.
Exactly. And when we get that balance right, that's when we can really soar.
This is awesome. I'm already feeling more empowered just thinking about all of this.
Me too. It's amazing how a simple analogy like flying a plane can teach us so much about life.
I know, right? It's like a whole new perspective.
And speaking of new perspectives, let's talk about the book's approach to managing our internal states.
Oh, yeah, like our emotions and all that.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not just about the external forces, We also need to learn how to manage what's going on inside of us.
Makes sense. So what does the book say about that?
Well, it introduces this really interesting method called CRSVP.
CRSVT.
There you go. It stands for calm respiration, smile visualization, and prioritization.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, right? But it's actually a pretty simple method. It's all about finding ways to stay calm and focused even when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the first step is calm. It's about finding that inner stillness amidst the chaos.
Right.
You know,
Easier said than done sometimes.
Sure. But there are techniques that can help,
Yeah.
like meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness, things like that.
Okay, so we find our calm. What's next?
Then we focus on respiration.
Yeah.
So using our breath to regulate our emotions.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how your breathing changes when you're stressed?
Yeah, for sure. It gets all shallow and rapid.
Exactly. And that actually sends signals to your brain that something is wrong, which makes you feel even more stressed.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. But the good news is that we can use our breath to calm our nervous system down
How?
by taking slow, deep breaths. It's like hitting the reset button.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So we've got common respiration. What about the S?
Yes. Smile.
Smile?
Yep.
Huh?
As simple as it sounds, smiling can actually have a powerful effect on our mood.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually scientific evidence to support it. When we smile, our brain releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
Wow, I never knew that.
It's like tricking your brain into feeling happier.
I like that. So even if we don't feel like smiling, we should just do it anyway.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it right.
Right. Okay, so we've got calm respiration and smile. What's next?
Next comes visualization.
Visualization.
Yep. This is all about using the power of our imagination to create the outcomes we want.
Interesting. So we're like picturing ourselves achieving our goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about daydreaming. It's about creating a clear and vivid mental picture of what we want to achieve.
And that helps us to actually achieve it.
It can,
Okay.
because when we visualize something, our brain starts to believe it's possible.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. And it's a technique that's used by many successful athletes, performers, entrepreneurs, you name it.
So it's like we're programming our minds for success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, there's prioritization.
Prioritization.
Yep. This one's all about focusing on the essential tasks and letting go of the things that don't serve us.
So it's about being intentional with our time and energy.
Exactly. It's about saying no to the things that distract us from our goals and yes to the things that move us closer to them.
I can see how that would be important.
It is, because when we're constantly bombarded with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what's truly important.
So true. I feel like I'm constantly getting pulled in a million different directions.
Well, this method can help with that. It's about creating a clear sense of purpose and focusing our energy on the things that matter most.
I like that. So CRSVP, calm respiration, smile visualization, and prioritization.
Exactly. 5 simple steps that can help us manage our emotions and stay focused on our goals.
This is great. I'm definitely going to try this.
Me too. I think it can be really helpful.
So we've talked about the external forces that impact our journey, and now we've got this method for managing our internal states. Anything else we need to know?
Well, the book also talks about the importance of leadership.
Leadership.
Yep, but not just in the traditional sense of leading others. It's also about leading ourselves.
Oh, I see. So like being the captain of our own lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our choices and inspiring those around us by our actions.
I like that. So it's about setting a good example and empowering others to be their best selves.
Exactly. And the book uses the example of a pilot leading their crew, communicating effectively, inspiring confidence, and making decisions that ensure the safety and well-being of everyone on board.
Makes sense. So it's not just about giving orders. It's about creating a positive and supportive environment where everyone feels valued and motivated to contribute.
Right. And the book highlights leaders like Nelson Mandela, Jacinda Ardern, and Howard Schultz, who have embodied these principles in their own unique ways.
It's inspiring to see how they've used their leadership to make a positive impact on the world.
Definitely. And it shows true leadership is about much more than just holding a position of power. It's about serving others and making a difference.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on.
I agree.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about defining our destination, assembling our crew, mastering the controls, managing the forces that impact our journey, and even leading ourselves effectively. What a journey.
It has been. And it's just the beginning.
That's right. This is just the first part of our deep dive into Pilot Your Life.
I can't wait to see what else we discover in the next part.
Me too. But for now, let's take a break and we'll be back soon with more insights from this amazing book.
Sounds good.
See you then. Okay, so we left off talking about all those forces. Gravity, lift, drag, and thrust.
Right. The forces that can either help or hinder us on our journey.
Exactly. And it made me think about, how we create the right environment for success. Like, do we need a fancy office or a special space to really thrive?
That's a great question.
Right.
And the book actually addresses that with this concept of creating your own personal cockpit.
A cockpit, like in a plane.
Exactly. Think of it as your personal command center, the place where you make decisions, process information, and steer your life.
I love that analogy. But
Yeah.
how do we actually create a cockpit in real life?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we can build one in our living room.
Right. It's not about a physical space. It's more about cultivating the right mental and environmental conditions for success.
So it's about creating a space where we can focus and think clearly.
Exactly. Just like a pilot needs a clear, organized cockpit to fly a plane, we need to create environments that minimize distractions and allow us to concentrate.
So it's about decluttering our minds and our surroundings.
Absolutely. The book gives this really cool example of Ludwig Mersenne.
Who's that?
He's a South African inventor who created this innovative product called Dry Bath. And get this, he developed it in a simple student dorm room.
Wow. So you don't need a fancy office to be successful?
Nope. It's all about creating a space that works for you. A space where you can focus and let your creativity flow.
That makes sense. I mean, think about all the great minds who worked in simple spaces, like Marie Curie. She made groundbreaking discoveries in a modest lab.
Exactly. Her cockpit might have been simple, but it allowed her to focus on her work and achieve incredible things.
And then there's Steve Jobs, known for his minimalist approach to workspaces.
Oh, yeah. He believed that a clutter-free environment fostered clarity and creativity.
Exactly. And look what he accomplished. I've actually been trying to declutter my own workspace lately, inspired by all these examples.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. Our environment plays a huge role in our productivity and well-being.
Totally. So creating a cockpit that supports our goals is essential for success.
Absolutely. It's like setting the stage for a great performance.
Okay, so we've got our cockpit all set up. What's next?
Well, the book also emphasizes the importance of routines.
Routines. I'm not always the best at sticking to those.
I hear you. But routines can be really helpful. They're like the pre-flight checks and in-flight procedures that keep a plane running smoothly.
So they're about creating structure and consistency.
Exactly. They're not about becoming robots, but about establishing habits that support our goals and free up our mental energy for more important things.
So it's like autopilot for certain aspects of our lives.
Precisely. Think about an airplane maintaining altitude. It requires a constant, steady effort from the engines. In the same way, our small, repeated actions like daily reading, meditation exercise, or even just planning our day create a kind of cumulative force that propels us forward.
It's like those tiny course corrections a pilot makes to keep the plane on track.
Exactly. Individually, they might seem insignificant, but over time, they make a huge difference.
So it's the little things that add up over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just like a pilot needs to constantly monitor instruments and make adjustments, we need to be proactive in managing our routines and adapting them as our circumstances change.
So it's about finding that balance between consistency and flexibility.
Exactly. Having routines that provide structure, but also being adaptable to life's inevitable twists and turns.
The book actually gives some great examples of people who have mastered this balance, like Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a big believer in the power of routines.
Right. She starts each day with a gratitude practice, which helps her stay grounded and focused.
And then there's Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer.
He's got to have some intense routines.
Oh, yeah. He attributes his success to a strict routine of training, rest, and nutrition.
So routines aren't just about productivity. They're about creating a foundation for success in all areas of life.
Exactly. They help us manage our energy, stay focused on our goals, and ultimately make progress toward our desired destinations.
Speaking of destinations, What about those times when we hit turbulence? Those unexpected challenges that life throws our way.
That's where contingency plans come in.
Contingency plans, like a plan B.
Exactly. Just like a pilot needs to know how to handle engine failure or a sudden storm, we need to be prepared for the things that might go wrong.
So it's about being realistic and having a backup plan.
Exactly. It's not about being pessimistic or expecting the worst. It's about being prepared and knowing what to do if things don't go according to plan.
That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we can get so focused on our goals that we forget to think about what might go wrong.
Right, but having a contingency plan can help us feel more confident and in control.
So it's like a safety net.
Exactly. It gives us a sense of security and allows us to take risks without fear of failure.
The book actually shares some great examples of people who have used contingency plans to navigate challenging situations, like Aliko Dangote.
Oh yeah, the Nigerian businessman. He anticipated potential economic downturns and diversified his business interests.
So he was prepared when things went south.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And allowed him to stay afloat and continue growing his empire.
That's smart. It's like that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Exactly. And then there's Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks.
What happened with him?
Well, in the early 2000s, the company faced some financial difficulties. So he had to make some tough decisions.
Like what?
He temporarily closed hundreds of stores, restructured operations, and refocused on the core values of the brand.
So he had to adjust his flight plan.
Exactly. And those adjustments ultimately helped the company get back on track.
So contingency plans aren't about being afraid of failure.
Nope. They're about being prepared to adapt and make necessary adjustments when things don't go as planned.
That's a great way to look at it. So we've got our cockpit, our routines, and our contingency plans. What else do we need to know?
Well, the book also stresses the importance of regularly reviewing and updating our goals and strategies.
It's like checking our flight plan and making sure we're still on course.
Exactly. Life is constantly changing, and our goals and strategies need to evolve with it.
So we're constantly reassessing and adapting.
Absolutely. The book uses the analogy of a pilot checking their instruments and making course corrections based on changing weather conditions or air traffic.
So we need to be just as proactive in monitoring our progress and making adjustments to our flight plan as we go.
Exactly. Things change, priorities shift, and we need to be flexible enough to adapt.
The book actually shares some inspiring examples of people who have embraced this concept of continuous reassessment and adaptation, like Strive Masiyiwa.
Oh yeah, the Zimbabwean entrepreneur. He's a great example of someone who's not afraid to change direction.
Right. When he realized that his initial business venture was becoming saturated, he shifted his focus to telecommunications.
And that move led to international success for his company, Econet.
Exactly. It's a great example of how being open to change can lead to even greater success than we initially envisioned.
Absolutely. And then there's Ariana Huffington.
The founder of the Huffington Post?
Yep. After facing setbacks in her political aspirations, she pivoted her career path and aligned her goals with her passions for writing and communication.
And it worked out pretty well for her.
It did. It shows that sometimes those unexpected detours can lead us to incredible destinations we never even knew existed.
That's so true. So it's about being open to new possibilities and not being afraid to change course when necessary.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating towards our destinations, it's also important to understand the various forces that can impact our journey.
Right. We talked about those earlier: gravity, lift, drag, and thrust.
Exactly. Those forces represent the various factors that can either propel us forward or hold us back in our journeys.
So let's break them down a bit further, starting with gravity.
Okay, so gravity in this context represents the habits, beliefs, and even people that weigh us down and make it harder to achieve our goals.
So it's like the extra baggage we're carrying.
Exactly. The more baggage we have, the harder it is to take off.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So things like procrastination, self-doubt, and negative thinking, those are all forms of gravity.
Exactly. They drain our energy and make it harder to gain momentum.
And the book highlights figures like Warren Buffett and Masayoshi Son who have achieved success by overcoming these negative forces.
Right. They've learned to shed that extra baggage and focus on what truly matters.
So it's about identifying those sources of gravity in our lives and finding ways to let go of them.
Exactly. And that's where lift comes in.
Lift, the opposite of gravity.
Precisely. Lift represents the positive habits, opportunities, and relationships that uplift and inspire us.
So it's like the wind beneath our wings, helping us soar to greater heights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing and cultivating the things that give us energy and make us feel alive.
Things like supportive friends, mentors, hobbies that bring us joy.
Absolutely. All of those things can contribute to our sense of lift.
And the book shares examples of people like Elon Musk and Mo Ibrahim who have leveraged Lyft by cultivating positive habits, surrounding themselves with supportive people, and seizing opportunities that aligned with their visions.
Right. They've created environments that support their growth and help them achieve their goals.
So it's about being intentional about creating lift in our lives.
Exactly. We need to actively seek out the things that uplift and inspire us.
Okay, so we've got gravity and lift. What about drag?
Drag is the force that resists our forward motion. Just like drag slows down an airplane, certain people, circumstances, and even our own limiting beliefs can create resistance in our
Oh,
lives.
it's like those things that make us feel stuck or like we're constantly fighting uphill battle.
Exactly. And the book uses Jeff Bezos as an example of someone who has faced drag in the form of criticism and skepticism.
But he didn't let that stop him.
Nope. He persevered and built one of the most successful companies in the world.
That's inspiring. It shows that we don't have to let drag control our lives.
Exactly. And the book also points out how Oprah Winfrey has learned to navigate drag by setting boundaries, letting go of toxic relationships, and focusing on her own inner strength.
So it's about finding ways to manage drag effectively.
Right. It's not about avoiding it altogether because that's impossible. It's about learning how to minimize its impact and keep moving forward.
And finally, we have thrust,
Ah, yes. The force that propels us forward.
like the engines of a plane.
Exactly. This represents our consistent effort, drive, and determination.
So it's the internal force that pushes us toward our goals.
Precisely. And it's essential for success. We can have the best flight plan in the world, but without thrust, we're not going anywhere.
So it's about finding that inner motivation and drive.
Absolutely. And the book shares examples of Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, and Tony Alumelu as individuals who have achieved remarkable things by consistently applying effort and staying focused on their goals.
They didn't let setbacks or obstacles stop them. They kept pushing forward.
Exactly. Fueled by their own internal thrust.
So these four forces, gravity, lift, drag, and thrust, they're constantly at play in our lives.
They are. And understanding how they work can help us make more conscious choices about how we navigate our journeys.
It's about minimizing the gravity and drag while maximizing the lift and thrust.
Exactly. It's like finding the perfect balance for a smooth and successful flight.
And in addition to mastering those external forces, we also need to manage our internal states.
Oh, yes. Our emotions, they can be powerful forces too.
Absolutely. And that's where the CRSVP method comes in.
Right. The method we talked about earlier, calm respiration, smile visualization, and prioritization.
Those 5 steps can help us stay grounded and focused even when we're feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's about taking control of our emotions instead of letting them control us.
So let's recap those steps one more time, just to make sure we've got it.
Okay, so first we find our calm.
Right. That inner stillness amidst the chaos.
Then we focus on our respiration, taking slow, deep breaths to regulate our emotions,
And then we smile.
even if we don't feel like it. Because smiling can actually trick our brains into feeling happier.
Then we visualize our success, creating a clear and vivid mental picture of what we want to achieve.
And finally, we prioritize, focusing on the essential tasks and letting go of the things that don't serve us.
Those 5 steps can make a huge difference in how we handle the ups and downs of life.
Absolutely. They can help us stay calm, focused, and in control.
So we've got the external forces and the internal states covered. Anything else we need to know?
Well, the book also talks about the importance of leadership.
Leadership,
Yeah, but not just in the traditional sense of leading others. It's also about leading ourselves.
right? Being the captain of our own lives.
Exactly. Taking responsibility for our choices and inspiring those around us by our actions.
It's about setting a good example and empowering others to be their best selves.
The book uses the example of a pilot leading their crew, communicating effectively, inspiring confidence, and making decisions that ensure the safety and well-being of everyone on board.
So it's about creating a positive and supportive environment where everyone feels valued and motivated.
Right. And the book highlights leaders like Nelson Mandela, Jacinda Ardern, and Howard Schultz, who have embodied these principles in their own unique ways.
They've shown that true leadership is about serving others and making a difference.
And that's something we can all strive for, whether we're leading a team, a company, or just our own lives.
Well said. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from defining our destination to assembling our crew to mastering the controls and managing the forces that impact our journey. It's been quite a ride.
It has.
Yeah.
But we're not done yet. There's still so much more to explore.
That's right. This is just the second part of our deep dive into Pilot Your Life. And in the next part, we'll be talking about how to land our flight successfully.
Ah, yes. The art of the landing.
Exactly. It's about ending chapters, gracefully transitioning smoothly, and setting ourselves up for success in the next phase of our journey.
It's something we often overlook,
Yeah,
but it's just as important as the takeoff.
totally. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the importance of embracing the journey, finding inner peace, and landing our planes gracefully.
I can't wait.
Me neither. It's going to be an inspiring conclusion to our exploration of Pilot Your Life. So we've talked about setting goals and achieving them, but I think something that's really important is, like enjoying the process, not just focusing on the end result.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the journey, not just the destination.
Right. The book actually talks about that. It says we should savor the experience of flying along the way.
Exactly. It's like taking a road trip. You don't just want to
Yeah.
get to your destination, you want to enjoy the scenery and the stops along the way.
Totally. And the book uses this analogy of turbulence during a flight. You know those bumps and shakes that can be a little unsettling?
Right. But a good pilot knows that turbulence is just a normal part of flying.
It's not going to bring the plane down.
Exactly. They just navigate through it knowing that smoother skies are ahead.
That's such a great metaphor for life because we all experience turbulence, those setbacks and challenges that can throw us off course.
Absolutely. But it's how we handle those moments that defines our journey.
Do we let them break us or do we use them as opportunities to learn and grow?
The book actually uses Nelson Mandela's story as an example.
Oh, yeah, he's a perfect example of resilience.
He spent 27 years in prison, but he never gave up on his vision for a free South Africa.
And he came out stronger and more determined than ever.
Exactly. He embraced the journey, even when it was incredibly difficult.
That's so inspiring. It shows that we can find meaning and purpose even in the midst of adversity.
Absolutely. And the book also talks about the importance of finding inner peace.
Inner peace. That sounds nice.
It is. It's about cultivating a sense of calm and contentment within ourselves.
Regardless of what's going on around us.
Exactly. It's about finding that stillness amidst the chaos.
I think that's something we all strive for, especially in today's world where it's so easy to feel stressed and overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And the book offers some practical advice for finding that inner peace.
Like what?
Well, it talks about things like gratitude, mindfulness, and connecting with our values.
So it's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have.
Exactly. And it's also about being present in the moment and
Mhm.
appreciating the little things.
I like that. It's about finding joy in the simple things.
Right. And when we can do that, we're less likely to get caught up in the drama and stress of everyday life.
Makes sense. So we're embracing the journey, finding inner peace, and what else?
Well, the book also talks about the importance of landing our flight successfully.
Landing, like bringing the plane down safely.
Exactly. It's about ending projects, thoughtfully concluding chapters gracefully, and transitioning into new phases of life with intention and care.
So it's about finishing strong.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's like a pilot making a smooth landing. They don't just slam the plane onto the runway.
Right. They take their time and they do it with precision.
And that's how we should approach transitions in our own lives.
So it's about being mindful and intentional about how we end things.
Exactly. And the book shares the story of Strive Masiyiwa.
The entrepreneur from Zimbabwe.
Yep. He carefully planned the handover of his company to ensure its continued success.
So he orchestrated a smooth landing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He made sure that both he and the organization were set up for success in the next chapter.
that's a great example. It shows that we can approach endings with the same level of intentionality that we approach beginnings.
Absolutely. And it's not just about business transitions either. It applies to all areas of life.
Like relationships, careers, personal projects,
Anything, really. It's about recognizing that every ending is also a beginning.
and that we have the power to shape those transitions in a way that serves us.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
The most important skill a pilot develops is the ability to learn from every flight.
So it's not just about reaching the destination.
No, it's about using every experience, the good and the bad, as an opportunity for growth.
I like that. It's about embracing the entire journey, not just the highlights.
Exactly. And as you continue on your own journey, remember that you are the pilot of your life.
You have the power to choose your destination, assemble your crew, master your controls, and navigate the inevitable turbulence that comes with any adventure.
Embrace the journey, learn from your experiences, and never stop striving for your dreams.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Until next time, happy flying.